Are you living in chaos, worried about dementia, but don't even have a diagnosis yet? That is where we find Fran. Her mom has changed the locks, accuses her of stealing medicine, won't let her help, and there's still no diagnosis of dementia on the table. Hey, Christian Care Companion. Welcome back to Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians, the podcast where I help Bible-believing Christians face the overwhelm and decision fatigue of dementia care and find a way to walk this road as a Christian. If you have ever felt paralyzed by questions you cannot answer, today's episode will help you see what's possible, even when the start of caregiving feels like chaos. Caregiving in chaos is too heavy to do alone. That's why I opened the Christian Dignicare Society. It is a one-time investment, less than $100, and inside you'll find real support, a monthly Ask Me Anything call, a prayer meeting, and content to guide you through this journey. And you will have me in your corner when questions come up. And if you join before the end of this year, I'll meet you in a 15-minute welcome call to show you the society. The link is waiting in the show notes or on our website, thinkdifferentdementia.com. And if you'd rather dip your toe in first, come to the free, brand new live workshop on Saturday, October the 4th at noon. It is free, and I will give you tools that you can use right away. Sign up at thinkdifferentdementia.com/WSL. Now, let's listen in on our conversation with Fran in a recent Ask the Dementia Coach and talk about how to cope when dementia caregiving starts in chaos. Welcome to this Ask the Dementia Coach, Miss Fran. And before we get in with your question, I'm going to ask you a simple reflection. This helps me to help keep us focused and make the most of our time together. In 6 months from today, what would need to happen for you to say that your caregiving journey is easier, that you have been able to steward it well, that you keep your own health and your relationships in mind and walk faithfully through this season? What would need to happen for it to be easier if you're looking back over 6 months?
Well, my journey's just beginning, and my mom has yet to be actually diagnosed with dementia, but it's to make sure that she has what she needs as far as food, I guess caregiving. I'm just, like I said, in the beginning stages. She hasn't been diagnosed. She's barricading herself in her home. It's changed the locks. I used to take care of her bills and her meds, and she won't allow me to do that anymore. She did call me to pick her up from the hospital last night, but she's accusing me of stealing her medications, calling her brother, telling him to call the cops to have me arrested.
Okay.
It's,
I know it's a lot. And so let me just pause you there just for a second so that I know a little bit about your backstory. So there's a lot going on. And to paraphrase, I'm just going to say what perhaps the essence of what you just said was what would make it easier is actually knowing that there's a diagnosis. Would that be a accurate maybe summary of that?
Yeah. And,
Okay.
making sure she gets the care she needs. And
Right. But that all kind of falls under the same purview, having a little bit more clarity of the situation. So what do you think is getting in the way of that outcome? right now? What do you think is standing in the way of it being easier for you related to the whole situation? Is it not having a diagnosis? Is it not knowing what all your options are? Is it the fact that you've got all these other things going on in the background with your mom related to diagnoses? What do you think is the barrier to making this easier for you?
It's her.
Okay.
She called me this morning. First of all, she went to the hospital last night and then called a brother and demanded he call an attorney because they're not giving her the care that she needs. And I was the only one at 10:30 at night that could come and pick her up. I'm actually her only caregiver.
Right.
She said, "This is Joan. I need you to pick me up at the hospital," and hung up the phone.
Okay. So, Miss Fran, let's condense this for a little bit. So, you've said something really interesting, and I want to touch on that for a second, right? You said that she is the barrier in making things easier, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, if it would be okay with you, let me unpack for you just a little bit about what it is that I see in this specific situation. So, people who are listening to the podcast, I had a wonderful 30-minute conversation with Miss Fran yesterday. So, I know a little bit about the backstory. I'm going to condense it in a way so that we can give people some context without going into too many of the details. But Miss Fran is helping her mom, who is living with other pre-diagnosed mental health challenges and is now exhibiting signs that could potentially be related to a possible diagnosis of dementia. Miss Fran is her mom's healthcare power of attorney and power of attorney for medical, for a durable power of attorney. And her mom is not willing right now to allow her to actually help her, which has put Miss Fran in a position of, for obvious reasons, struggle and difficulty and making it hard for her to be able to actually help her, which is why she said her mom is the challenge. And so, was that an accurate summary, Fran, of our conversation yesterday?
Yes, it's
Okay. Very, very good. So here is what I would continue to recommend the steps that you need to take in order to make this clear. I wish, Fran, that this was a light switch that we could flip on and off, right? And in your specific situation, we're dealing with a dimmer switch, not a light switch. There are lots of things that you need to be doing to tweak this in order to get to the ultimate result. The reason you're feeling things are so unclear is because there's no diagnosis. There's a lot of upheaval. There's a lot of medical stuff going on. And your mom has been reluctant to take help. In the last 3 to 4 days that I've been around you, how many times has she been in the hospital?
2.
Twice in 3 to 4 days. Okay. The reality of the matter, unfortunately, adults are entitled to make stupid decisions. Your mom does not have a diagnosis yet. We can try to put her in bubble wrap. We can try to stave off the crisis. And I'm wanting us to stave off the crisis. And I also recognize that sometimes the person will not allow us to stave off the crisis. Let me use an example of a patient that I saw years ago that your mom kind of reminds me of a little bit. Okay. When I went to go see this person, I was working in home health and I showed up at the house and it was a terrible situation. Terrible. It was very unsanitary. It was not well clean. There was very little food. There was all of this stuff. Like, I don't know what your mom's apartment looks like, but think terrible, terrible living situation. The patient's daughter was there. The patient's daughter was a licensed counselor and knew that her mom was not safe to live alone and that her mom was making very bad decisions. And she actually said that she reported herself to the Department of Health and Safety, Adult Protective Services, because she wanted to see if she could get her mom some help. She reported her mom, which implied that she was not giving her mom the care that her mom needed. Her mom was not open to or willing to accept care. Okay. And so here I come. I'm a healthcare provider. I'm a mandatory reporter. And when I left that person's home, I called my boss and I said, I need to call Adult Protective Services on this client. And I actually called them and I reported this person for living in an unsafe and unsanitary environment. And Adult Protective Services came and they did an investigation. And because this person did not have cognitive impairment to the point that it was diagnosable, Adult Protective Services could do nothing. They said she has the right to make these decisions for herself. And that is the position, Fran, that you are in right now. Does your mom have cognitive loss? I don't know. We really don't know until somebody does an assessment. We're assuming that she does based off of some of the stuff that she's doing. And it could be her pre-existing mental health issues that are resulting in what we're seeing. So back to what I suggested to you yesterday is, unfortunately, in your mom's particular situation, it's going to end up with her ending up in the hospital in a crisis situation likely before you're going to be able to do anything. And it's going to take that situation to get a diagnosis possibly of dementia. You are already doing everything that you can to help your mom. You picked her up from the hospital. You are trying to make sure that the stuff on her leg is taken care of. You're making sure that she's getting her medicine. You're ensuring that she's getting food. You're ensuring that the bills get paid and that the lights don't get cut off. That is all you can do until you either have a diagnosis or you've taken legal steps to get guardianship. That is the reality of the situation that you guys are facing. And I hate that it is that way. I hate it. I wish I had a better solution for you. I really do. And unfortunately, in certain situations, that's the only thing that we can do is let it play out. And as a daughter, sometimes that's the hardest thing because you're seeing your adult parent making stupid decisions that you know is going to impact their lives. So before I end with you, I'll use myself as an example. My mom passed away in February. For anybody who just started listening to the podcast, she passed away after having a cardiac arrest during a routine procedure. And the reason that she needed this routine procedure was something that was entirely 100% preventable from a medical perspective. There was no medical reason why my mom should have ever gotten to the point that she got to. And she had told me for years, I don't want anything done. And so she had obviously, in retrospect, had reflux for years, had a stricture in her esophagus, which resulted in her not being able to eat any solids, which resulted in the only thing going in being liquid on top of a diagnosis of congestive heart failure. And when all of those things lined up and they couldn't do the procedure to open up her esophagus, she passed away 2 hours after coding. And so I had to stop and really reflect for myself, what could I have done differently? Yes, as a healthcare provider, there are a lot of things that I could have done earlier on, but my mom didn't want them. And I needed to let her make the decision for herself because even though she had cognitive loss, she had the capacity to make that decision. And so, Fran, I know you are feeling likely very torn between knowing what needs to be done and your hands are tied and you cannot do it. So for that, I feel very badly for you because I know it is a frustrating place to be. And I see you doing everything you can to try to help her. So based on what we just talked about, what is one action item? What's one action step you can take to make this journey a little bit easier on yourself? It could be as simple as recognizing that you're doing everything that you can. It can be as simple as saying out loud, I might need to let her fail before I can get her the help she needs. What is one thing you can do to make this easier for yourself? I know this is hard.
I have so many questions. I don't know when to step in to be your
I
guardian.
understand.
I
This
don't
is
know what I can do for myself. I don't know.
So, Fran, this is not the venue for us to answer all of the questions.
Well, I answered the question. I don't know what I can do for myself.
Okay. You don't know what you can do for yourself. May I give you a suggestion?
Sure.
Be gracious to yourself. Be gracious to yourself because, Fran, you are doing everything you can to try to prevent the oncoming train. You're doing the right things. You're seeking help. You're asking questions. The hardest thing is getting to the point of knowing what you can and cannot control. And so I've spoken with Shantae about what your possible options are for working together moving forward. You have a complicated situation. I cannot solve it in a 20-minute conversation because a lot of the work that we would need to do is unraveling the difference between mental health and what's going on potentially related to dementia, and then manage your expectations as well as come up with practical solutions. This is not a one and done conversation. When I work with people, I sometimes work with people for 2 years at a time to help them through this process. In my community, just yesterday in my community, we have several new people that have come in, and I asked some of my older members, how long did it take before the things that I said started to actually sink in and make a difference? And consistently, it was 6 months to a year of hearing the same information, the same strategies, the same techniques, the same managing the expectations before people were able to internalize it and start to take action. So you are in a complicated situation. I'm willing and able to help you, but a 20-minute conversation cannot solve all of these issues. So my request for you is be kind to yourself. You are doing a good job.
Thanks. I appreciate
Okay?
it.
I know this is hard. I know this is hard. And there are things that can be done, but they take time. All right, sweet lady? People who are really benefiting from the community are the people who joined earlier on before
Yes.
they need it
Yes.
and that have been active and are participating in the community because then they already know what questions to ask and they have a place to come and they're not constantly wondering, what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? So people listening are interested in tapping into or learning about the community. I'd invite you to just go to the website, thinkdifferentdementia.com. There's a link for you to schedule a 20-minute call. There's no pressure. I'll serve you regardless of whether you join the community or not. But it is a way for you to take this relationship a little deeper, a little bit more hands-on support, because really the research also shows it's longitudinal support over time.
Absolutely.
For sure. I would highly recommend Lizette. She's awesome.
Tracy, I appreciate that endorsement.